So this is Vicky Gervais at the Greater Gainesville Chamber, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Judith Jensen, a candidate for our Alachua County Supervisor of Elections. And we're going to spend a few minutes getting to know her better today. Welcome, Judith.
Thank you for the opportunity to tell people about why I'm running.
All right, terrific. Well, let's jump right into the questions, and then we'll have some time at the end to wrap things up a little bit. First question is, what particular skills and experiences will you bring to the office of supervisor?
I have many years of leadership in nursing. I have been a nurse for over 40 years in busy labor and delivery units and NICU. I have been a clinical nurse specialist and policy and procedure chair. I'm very organized. I'm used to working 12-hour shifts in high stress situations. I have a very open, collegial, collaborative way of working with all kinds of people. Um, I have a very accepting view of other people. I've never I've never turned down any assignment. So I'm just really used to being there for people, being caring, listening to them, hearing what they want. And I am very focused on doing things the best way, evidence-based practice, not just, oh, we have always done it this way. No, I want to look at productivity. I want to look at, are the taxpayers getting the best bang for their buck? Being in the private sector, you have to be accountable for all of the things that you do and the time that you spend doing it and do it right. There's no room for mistakes in nursing. And so I bring that to the table. I have worked, jobs where I have been salaried, but you have to tie that into responsible work-life balance too. For instance, I sent in an email to the incumbent 2 days ago, and I got a response at 10:30 at night. And I'm like, wow, I don't know that that's good work-life balance to still be looking at your work email that late at night. You have to have some time for your family and yourself and refresh and budget your time. And that's what I would bring.
All right, terrific. And that kind of segues perfectly into the next question, which would be, what would be your top priority and projects if you were elected to this office?
My top priority is making sure that the people who are on our voter rolls are supposed to be there. The way I got into election integrity work originally was with Defend Florida. And we were given lists of questionable registrations. We went to those doors, we knocked on them, and 20% of the people who answered said, no, that person has never been here in all the 5 years I've lived here, or it was a one-bedroom apartment with 8 people registered there. The voter rolls were just, so questionable. And so I started digging into it, and I started with voters over the age of 100. And in our county, there were 212 when I started looking. I looked the other day and there's still 110. And in just a half hour of digging, I found, 6 of them that had obituaries, tombstones, and that was what I had come across years ago. When we brought it to their office, they said, well, it's not official. We'll look at it if we have time. Well, that's not good enough. You've got all these volunteers spending hours for nothing. That benefits the taxpayers to have people digging into the voter rolls, which are public domain. The state sends out a disc every month with everything about the voters that are on there. And there's so many people who want to help with the process, but we weren't able to get access. We weren't able to get meetings. We weren't able to share. Defend Florida had found 14,000 people that, over 10-year time might not have been really eligible to be on the voter rolls, and we weren't able to communicate that. So it's been a frustrating process. The voter roll, especially from a standpoint of how many people have come over the border and into Florida, we need to make sure that our voter rolls have citizens who actually live here, who are not deceased. And, there are so many databases that the supervisor office can access that aren't available to the general public. I was able to find lots of people that were questionable just with basic, internet searches. The SOE has access to so much more. We could have such beautiful faith in the accuracy of our voter rolls. And that's something that's super important to me.
Okay. Well, again, a perfect segue, and I'll remind everyone that no one got the questions ahead of time. But it's a good segue because, of course, election integrity is a very divisive issue today. What steps do you think are important to reassure voters and turn down the temperature on this a little bit?
The temperature is definitely very high, and I know that there are a number of people in the SOE offices that have just stepped away and said, wow, it's too hot to handle. And I want to go into it because to turn down some of that by instilling trust, and a lot of it is honesty. And nurses are one of the most trustworthy professions just because of the caring aspect of it and the openness. So I think that having openness is so important, because many of my public record requests, which I've done a lot, come back with there's no data available, or there is no responsive record. For instance, we wanted to know how many people went to the wrong precinct on election day. And one of our watchers recently out at Tower Road said that 4 out of 10 people who walked in the door were at the wrong place. And when I worked as an EVID operator, each time somebody was at the wrong polling location, it would spit out a little paper. And so I requested, how many times were those little papers spit out? And I got, well, there are no responsive records. Well, how can you not want to know how many people went to the wrong polling place? How can you not have that data available to people? How can you solve a problem if you don't even know how extensive it was? And so I think that digging into the root problems, in terms of leadership, looking at the overarching things, establishing a really good core group of people you can trust and hold them accountable to their job description. I haven't been able to get job descriptions for people or productivity standards. But if you have people who are, being accountable for their jobs, and they can tell you, yes, this is the issue, this is how we're solving it, and be open with people and say, yeah, you bring us the problem, I'll listen to it, I'll find the right person to solve it, and then we're going to make it better. Now, for instance, precinct 60, I live in High Springs, precinct 20. Precinct 60 just last week found out that their polling place has been moved. And where it moved to is right next to where they just closed down a drug house. And people don't know, I don't know how. There's 13 precinct voting locations have changed within the last 2 years, and people are still, not getting it. How is somebody 45 days out from a general election to even know, hey, heads up, your polling place changed? So communication is so critical. And I think I've gone way off course, but
Well, I'll bring you back to our next question, which kind of again goes directly to some of what you've been saying. Technology both simplifies and complicates our life. Do you think our election should make more use of today's technology or less?
Well, that's an interesting question, because when the Center for Tech and Civic Life gave the grant for $750,000 to our county, 500,000 of it was spent on a lot of technology, mail-in ballot, machines, the receptacles for the drop boxes, and a fancy thing that opens up the envelopes. And we have a lot of technology, and the fiscal budget from 2021 was 4.8 million. It ballooned up to 9.7 million in fiscal year 24. And a lot of it was the purchase of fancy machines. Then you take Georgia, that had so many problems with their election, and they're doing hand counting this time. You've got over 100 countries that they refuse to use any machines. They refuse to use vote by mail, because those are avenues, well, especially vote by mail, the chain of custody is just not there. You figure how many people are handling that thing. Who are they? So technology is wonderful in terms of the the counting process, but people, I mean, that's how they used to count it all along. They do it in Taiwan, France, Sweden, Belgium. They have their results that night. It's counted at the precinct level. People, you can do it in teams of 4. It actually saves money. There's lots of evidence that it's 10 times less expensive than all the machines. I know that our laws say we have to use machines. I respect the use of machines, but doggone it, haven't you ever had your computer need servicing, and how easily somebody can just hack in there, take it over, do stuff, and okay, it's air gapped. Well, yeah, it doesn't work because it's got air around it. I think there's just a lot of vulnerabilities that we need to look into around machines, and we have to use them. But like what I say is, let's double check them. Now, the 2020 ballot images from Alachua County are in the process of being hand counted by volunteers all over the country through PolarisRecount.com. And we're looking at each ballot, and so at the end, that's a fantastic audit, because you'd be able to say, oh, look, it came out exactly right. The machines are so trustworthy. Isn't that wonderful? But if there are variations, that's important to know. Let's double check things. That's because the audit from the 2020 election, the minimum standard is 1 precinct, 1 race. So the race that they chose was 600 people. And so for all of those, 150,000 votes, we looked at 600. And it came out fine, and they went 100%, 100%, 100%. Well, that didn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy. I would have liked to see a more exhaustive, because then you can say, wow, I really trust that. So double checks.
Okay, very good. And you touched on this a little bit in your opening with the opening question, but the final question I have for you is, why are you running for this office right now?
Why I'm running is because, I never had any political aspirations whatsoever. The only thing I ever ran for was to be secretary of the Republican Executive Committee, and I was elected. So it was like, oh, maybe I can do something like that. But I started out with Defend Florida and Florida Fair Election Coalition and other people throughout the state that just had questions that we wanted answered, and some reassurance that we could trust our elections. And I have tried to make a difference as an individual. I've been frustrated, especially in Alachua County. This race for SOE has not even been on the ballot in 20 years. And in many cases, it was the incumbent who kind of encouraged the person who came on next, and it kind of flowed throughout. But for a salary of, over $160,000, it just seemed like somebody should give the voters a choice. I would like to see, a choice for every single race, but that hasn't always happened. And so, yes, I'm a Republican, but I am very open-minded. I want everybody at the table. I want everybody's ideas, because that's how you get the right answer, is not just, working in a little silo with people who say yes to everything you say. I want all the opinions, and that's what makes our country work, is all the variety of approaches, and then you choose the best one. So I'm running because I saw some things that I thought I could help with. Um, I'm running because I believe that elections belong to we the people. That is the way that we get people to represent us who want to listen to us. And if they're not doing their job, that's how we get them out. And so it's such a critical position for somebody to be in, to make sure that our voice is heard. I want every eligible eligible person to register and vote, so and instead of just saying, oh, those people, they're doing things wrong. Well, did you vote for them? Did you work on their campaign? Did you give them a little something to help them along? Did you do anything? Did you wave a sign? Be a part of the democratic process. And this is my way of trying to do that. I have a family, I have a job, I have a home, but campaigning is not easy. It's the first time I've ever done it. It's expensive. It takes a lot of time, but for me, it's important because I want to give back to my community, to my county. And so that's why I'm running.
Okay, terrific. All right, well, now the floor is yours. You can either just wrap us up, or if I didn't ask you something, or there's something else you wanted to be sure to cover before we adjourn. Now's your floor. It's up to you.
Okay. I did want to mention that I did earn a Master of Science degree in nursing, and the nursing process is a problem-solving process. So, I mean, you don't just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. You go through the process. And so my graduate work was largely with working with populations. I got halfway through my doctorate too, and then I had to put my family first. But I've also worked as a guardian ad litem volunteer, and I was in court today with an adoption that went through for one of my children. So it was like such a happy thing. Oh, it was wonderful. And then I totally understand that so much of what the SOE does is based upon the Florida statutes, which is a great big book, and it tells, that's how you administer elections. It doesn't matter, what my personal preference is, you follow the laws. And when things don't quite go clearly, then you can be liable for lawsuits. Like GRU just sued the SOE, and there's lawsuits going on with the church, North Gainesville Baptist Church, and in Newberry, that it got legally complicated with their school vote. And so it's not something to be taken lightly at all. You really got to know the statutes, you really got to follow them. And that's pretty daunting. But my father was a police officer, and I've always followed the rules. I've never had any problems, and so therefore, I'm very comfortable with following the statutes. Let's see. Is there anything else about my background that you would want to know? I've lived in High Springs for 12 years. I lived in Fort Myers for 7, and the rest of my life was in Wisconsin. It's too cold there. I know that there is a lot of legislation that is being looked at, like the SAVE Act, and I know they were trying to get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act correct again, but whatever support I can lend to the legislators who are looking at making elections better, I would love to do that. And I thought of something else and I forgot.
All right, well, we appreciate you so much spending time with us today. And I wanted to follow on what Judith was saying, that at the Greater Gainesville Chamber, we think it is critical to take your opportunity to make your voice heard. Be sure you take advantage of all your resources and be ready to vote on Tuesday, November 5th.
Yes,
Thanks so
please.
much and good luck on the rest of your campaign.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.